to College Football Live, presented by Dr. Pepper.
College Football Live. We are in the throes of it, the end of October. Chris Cotter, Emmanuel Acho, Jonathan Vilma. Guys, the Big Ten has doled out its punishment in the aftermath of the incident that took place before Michigan State inside East Lansing. There you see it. Michigan State players locked arm in arm. Coach Harbaugh called it the Stormtrooper March. Devin Bush didn't like it. Ended up stomping on the helmet at midfield. $10,000 the fine for Michigan State. And Michigan, Och, gets the dreaded verbal reprimand. It doesn't get any worse than that, Och. What do you think? Does the punishment fit the crime?
I think the punishment is irrelevant, and I think the crime ultimately now, in hindsight, is also irrelevant. First off, Cotter, $10,000. What is that really in this day and age of college football? Let's be honest. But secondly, I don't really get punishing Michigan State. In theory, no, they shouldn't have done it, but Devin Bush shouldn't have reacted accordingly. It's just, I don't see why Michigan State got the fine. It was kind of dumb. Sure, it was classless, in quote, but I don't see the point in a little measly $10,000 fine.
Well, Acho, the point was that there was no precedent for Michigan State to do this. There's no tradition that says we get off the bus with our helmets and sweats, lock arm in arm, and start to literally run over our opponents. So the NCAA is setting the tone and saying, look, we don't want this stupidity in college football, because that's what it was. We couldn't figure out before the game, why would anybody come off a bus with helmets on and then walk across the field locked in arms? And then when you see your opponent, who, by the way, has the best defense in the nation, you want to entice them and start a fight. And then you get your butt kicked. So there was no reason to do it, and that's what the NCAA is saying. Stop this nonsense. You have your traditions, leave with your traditions, and keep that nonsense out of there.
I think it was punishment enough that Michigan State got waxed in the game itself and got held to 80 or whatever yards it was. That was enough punishment, JV, in my opinion.
I agree.
The $10,000 is a lot less offensive than the way Michigan State looked on offense and defense that game.
That $10,000, that was Vilma's bar tab last Friday night when we went out here in Connecticut. But you're right, though, Vilma and Acho both. They got waxed on the field, so karma certainly came back to bite Michigan State more so than that 10 grand. All right, well, like Michigan, Ohio State has this week off before getting back into action coming up against Nebraska on the 3rd. They can't run the football. They can't score efficiently in the red zone, and that defense is giving up chunks of yardage like it's going out of style. Here's the defensive coordinator, Greg Schiano, and what he said this week about the Buckeyes preparing. Quote, the truth of the matter is that we're actually making progress in all areas. There's some things that I wish we'd make it faster, but when you watch the game and really evaluate it, there's a lot of good plays, a lot of 0-yard gains, negative gains, and sacks. Vilma, I got Penn State. I got Minnesota. I got Indiana in there. And then I got this performance against Purdue this past weekend. The trend doesn't seem to be my friend if I'm an Ohio State fan with this defense. Are you seeing any positive trends?
No, I'm seeing no positive trends, yet the defensive coordinator, Greg Schiano, he has to say this publicly because he can't come out and say, we stink, our defense stinks, and we don't have the athletes that we thought we did to start the season. So unfortunately, the facts are that he can't run the defense that he's wanted to run since last year. Last year, they were lights out. They played very well. This year, different players. Defensive line still very good, but that secondary back seven has always been an issue all season long. We've all talked about it. So he has to keep the morale high. If he goes out publicly saying that they stink, then you lose that team for the rest of the season.
He has to say it. Vilma's exactly right. But we can keep it 100 and we can be truthful. That defense is not very good. But we must preface with the fact that they did lose Bosa, probably the best football player in college at any position, if you ask me. So, no, the defense isn't good. They haven't been good in a while. The offense is really not helping them either by starting so slow. But, yes, a DC has to say that, massage the situation, make everybody feel better. But that Ohio State defense right now is not good enough.
Schiano's boss, Urban Meyer, just can't seem to get out of the spotlight either. He was asked earlier this week about his relationship with his athletic director, Gene Smith. He said there's no tension there, but there is a sense of urgency with this program. Jonathan, is it time, and we're hearing a lot of rumblings, whether you look back to what happened in August, whether we're talking about now.
Stop.
Is it time for him to go? I'm just asking. Is it time for Urban to step aside?
It is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous that we're even having this discussion. He is one of the best coaches in all of college football. He is undefeated versus Michigan. The first thing any coach goes to Ohio State, and the first thing they learn is you got to beat Michigan. Undefeated. When they were ineligible, they went undefeated. He's won a title against, oh, by the way, Nick Saban's vaunted defense and team. Like, he is a very, very good coach. There is no reason to have this discussion because who are you going to get? There's nobody out there. Who are you going to get that's better than Urban right now?
There's a reason to have the discussion. The leash is a lot longer for off-the-field issues when everything's going right on the field. But, JV, you might know this best. It's not about what have you done for me. It's a what have you done for me lately type of league. And right now, what was done lately was a 29-point loss or so at the hands of Purdue. So I get why the rumblings start to happen. Again, Vilma makes a great point. Urban Meyer is probably top 3 coach in college football in the last decade or 2 decades. He is a phenomenal football coach, so truly Ohio State should count their blessings. But when you have issues like what occurred in August, that leash starts to get real short for Urban. You can't take no butt whoopings at the hand of Purdue.
Acho, that's ridiculous. You telling me one loss, and now we're talking about, oh, we should fire Urban Meyer? What about all the other teams that have had 1, 2, multiple losses?
I don't think it's the loss.
There's no way you're telling me after one loss we got to talk about him leaving. No way.
I don't think it's a loss. By no means is one loss you fire Urban Meyer. Heck no. It's a combination of people were saying, well, should Ohio State fire Urban Meyer prior to the season starting? Now you couple that with the bad loss, you're just going to pour gasoline on hot coals. That's all it is. It's not the loss. It's just the combination that can get people grumbling. But no, you said it right. Urban Meyer is a beast when it comes to being a head football coach.
And let's all remember they are 7-1, and they control their own destiny as far as winning the Big Ten and making it to the college football playoff once again. Not so the case with Penn State. If the Buckeyes are slipping, then Penn State is in free fall. They lost 2 in a row before squeaking out a win at Bloomington last weekend. And when you look at their remaining schedule, it doesn't get any easier with Iowa, one of the hotter teams right now in the Big Ten, coming to town this weekend, Saturday afternoon, 3:30 on ABC. Will Penn State, will they regain their swagger and save their season this weekend, or will Iowa continue their push to the Big Ten championship?
I think Iowa is the best football team that no one is talking about. Kirk Ferentz does a phenomenal job in Iowa with the Hawkeyes. I don't think Penn State regains their swagger, not because of Penn State or anything they have to do. I just think I watched Iowa play last week. They play a great job on offense, on defense, on special teams. Cotter, it's not flashy. Vilma, they might not sell a ton of tickets. They might not be as fun to watch, but they're sound and win ball games. Iowa only has 1 loss for a reason. People need to stop sleeping and wake up on the Hawkeyes.
Well, people need to stop talking about Penn State as if they are this powerhouse dominant football team. The fact is that we had them too highly ranked in the preseason, and now we're seeing who they really are. What they are is just a good team. They're not a great team against what James Franklin wants to say. They're definitely not an elite team against what he wants to say. They're just a good team. That's all they are. Their defense isn't good. They have a very good quarterback. I like Miles Sanders at the running back position. After that, they don't have anybody. They just have guys. So for us to keep talking about Penn State as if they're in the Ohio State upper echelon, Michigan upper echelon, it's ridiculous. Just let them fade away. That's what they're doing. Fade into the dust. Hopefully you get a good recruiting class and you get better players.
Iowa, by the way.
Cold world, Cotter.
Yeah, I know.
Let's go.
Iowa,
man.
by the way, one of 4 teams in the Western Division of the Big Ten with just 1 loss. So that's a battle right now over there on that side. By the way, I said that game was on ABC. It's on ESPN, 3:30 on Saturday. All right, Oklahoma State. They're bringing back the 1988 jerseys. Check out your guy right there, Barry Sanders, running all over Kansas. It's embarrassing Kansas in that video. They're going to wear those throwbacks, and they're going to take on Texas. We're going to talk about that, whether the Longhorns should be worried. That's right. That game is on ABC. That's prime time on Saturday night. Texas, Oklahoma State. T-Boone Pickens just walked in. You can watch not only on ABC, but also on that ESPN app.
By Dr. Pepper.
Alabama's the clear #1, Clemson at #2.
The chaos is just starting.
What a night in West Lafayette.
Notre Dame's got the next best resume.
Michigan and LSU are legit.
The first rankings reveal Tuesday, 7 p.m. on ESPN.
Time for the Dr. Pepper Championship Drive Game of the Week preview. Remember all those years when Florida State was at the very top, and Clemson was trying to knock the Noles off their perch. It seems like it has now been reversed over the past few years. Although, as you can see, the way these two teams have played over the last month, Florida State much better. Clemson keeps rolling along. 4-down territory here on College Football Live. Let's start the series with Dabo on the Noles.
Just a team that is 3-1 in their last 4, and that's really all that matters is this game. Records don't matter. If records matter, then Purdue doesn't beat 7-0 Ohio State, right? Records don't matter. You got to play the game. You know, I mean, heck, we lost to Syracuse last year, and they won 3 games. If the recruiting rankings mean anything, we're 1-9 against them in my 10 years. So they got plenty of talent.
JV, I'm going to go to you first on first down. What are the chances that the Noles spring the upset against Clemson in Tallahassee on Saturday?
Oh, slim to none. I love Dabo Swinney, but he sounds like Floyd Mayweather when he's hyping up one of his fights against a bum opponent that we know he's going to win and toy with. I mean, the fact is that Florida State's worst position group is the offensive line. Clemson's best position group is the defensive line. If you win that matchup, enough said. So Clemson's going to walk into there. They're going to beat them up. They're going to get sacks. They're going to get pressures, forced fumbles. And, oh, by the way, they can still run the ball with Travis Etienne on the other side. So it is no contest. But I like that he tried to sell it. I'll definitely tune in since he wants to sell me this game.
Hey, JV, you're right. He did a great job of selling it. I think Florida State will come out hyped. They'll come out emotional. But Clemson's just too much. We put some disrespect on their name last week before NC State. Then they whooped NC State and reminded everybody why Clemson's a big dog. There ain't no chance. Clemson will roll. They have to roll. Too talented.
Florida State is a home underdog for just the 4th time in an ACC game since joining the conference. That's 26
It's
years ago.
deservedly so that they're the underdog, Carter. Deservedly so.
All right, 2nd down and medium. First time both Georgia and Florida, speaking of ranked, have been ranked in the top 10 in meeting in this game in Jacksonville since Tim Tebow was playing for Florida. So I ask you this, Ach, if the Gators win, are they back to being Tebow-esque Florida, or do they still have a ways to go?
They're back, Carter. They're back. They are back. How many times do I have to say it? Here's why. What else do you want Florida to do? They lost the 2nd game of their season with a new head coach. That's their 1 loss on the year. Outside of that, they beat LSU. They beat Mississippi State. Florida has done enough to tell the nation, to tell college football analysts that the big dogs are back in town. They might not be as flashy as the 08-09 Florida teams led by Tebow, but this Gator team plays defense, forces turnovers. Them boys back.
No, they're not back, Acho. And you set the bar so low, just like you do for your Texas boys. To be back, you actually have to win something. Right now, they're winning games and they're becoming relevant again. But when I remember the Tebow years, as so do you, they were winning SEC championships. They were winning national titles. So just like Miami last year, just like your Texas team this year, none of them are back until they start winning some titles of significance.
Well, Acho, I'm going to give you an opportunity at retribution here. Let's talk Texas on Saturday, taking on Oklahoma State. But are the Longhorns in trouble if Ellinger can't play meaningful minutes out of that quarterback spot?
I have to say they could be because of Tom Herman. It all depends on him. Is Tom Herman going to create a game plan that fits Shane Buechele, the backup quarterback? I'm not going to sleep on Shane Buechele. He has 19 or so career starts. He's thrown for thousands of yards, so he can play ball. But you got to change your offensive game plan. Here is Texas's saving grace. They play defense. As long as the Longhorns travel with their defense, and the saying goes, defense travels, the Texas Longhorns should be and will be okay.
They should be okay, but not for the reasons you mentioned. They should be okay because Oklahoma State's defense stinks. You have a very good pass rush. They get sacks out the wazoo, but after that, they can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. The last 2 games, they got beat up in ball control. So you just run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. So if I'm Tom Herman, all I do is repeat the formula that's been successful for the other teams. Run the ball, and then you win the game.
Hey,
That's
the
the
whistle
night game.
blew, Jonathan. That means be quiet, sir.
Doesn't
the night
matter.
game
Texas
on
is not
ABC.
back. How about
But
that?
I'm going to give Jonathan a chance right here with 4th down. USF 7-0. Charlie Strong's doing a great job with the Bulls. They're just humming right along. Now they go to Houston, Vilma, and they're a 7.5-point underdog. Are they getting disrespected this week?
Yeah, they definitely are getting disrespected. You're 7-0 and you're undefeated with Charlie Strong and USF. I don't care how you won the games. I don't care what the schedule was. The fact that you're 7-0, there are literally 80, 90, 100 teams that wish they could be undefeated. So to go into Houston as a dog, I hope they use that as motivation, a chip on their shoulder, because don't tell me about who they played and haven't played. The fact is, they've won all their games, and many teams can't say that.
Look, Vilma, ain't no reason to have a chip on your shoulder. First things first, let me make this clear. I am a huge fan of Charlie Strong, the head coach. With that being said, Vilma, they beat Elon. They beat Illinois. They beat ECU. They beat UMass and they beat Tulsa. What are we talking about? All wins are not created equal. All undefeated teams are not created equal. Cotter, I spared you because they also beat Georgia Tech. I just didn't want to mention that on air.
Thanks for not mentioning that.
Mentioned it, so you didn't spare them. Wait, so, Acho, are you saying they should be a 7.5-point dog? Houston's the same team that got blown out the gym by Texas Tech.
What I'm saying is USF hasn't earned the right to be some sort of dominant favorite, bruh. Who have they truly beat? They haven't beat anybody that is anybody.
First of all,
Okay.
it's Elon. Elon is Vilma's hairdresser, all right? Let's get that right. We move on. When we come back here on College Football Live, LSU fans wanted the SEC to know how they feel about Devin White's targeting suspension. How would we change the rule? We'll talk about it next.
Heisman Update is brought to you by Nissan, premier partner of the Heisman Trophy.
This week's Heisman Update brought to you by Nissan. Tua remains in the top spot. No surprise there. Kyler Murray at number 2, also no surprise. You know what's interesting, if you look at Kyler Murray's numbers to this point of the season, comparable and in some cases even better than Baker Mayfield's were last year when he was able to ultimately take home the hardware. All right, Vilma, if the season ended today and you were giving out the Heisman Trophy, who would you give it to?
I'd give it to Kyler Murray. I look at the Heisman Trophy and what it represents. It's representing the most outstanding player, most dynamic player, most electric player in college football. Kyler Murray has been that. Yeah, they lost to a Texas team, yet he willed that team back from 21 points down in the fourth quarter. Every time I watch Kyler Murray and his play, you say, man, this guy is awesome. He's phenomenal. Hoping that some way, somehow, he doesn't go to the NBA, to baseball, and he goes to football instead. That's why I would take him over Tua right now.
You know, this is a good time to remind kids at home to stay off drugs. Because, Vilma, you sound like you're on something. Tua's so good, you only get to watch him play for a half because the second half, he's sitting on the bench, sitting down like you and I sit on set on Saturdays. He's chilling. Furthermore, Bama, they've outscored their opponents 218-76 in the last 4 games. That's how good Tua is. Tua's so good, he only lets us appreciate him for a half. Bama's always had defense. They've had defense since 07 when Saban showed up. But for the first time, because of Tua, they have offense. He has revolutionized the Alabama Crimson Tide team. And for that reason, it's a no-brainer.
25 touchdown passes, 0 interceptions for Tua so far this year. He's been near perfect for that Crimson Tide team. Big test coming up at LSU, though, in a couple of weeks. This week's Wendy's Fresh Look, LSU, speaking of the Tigers, linebacker Devin White, he's got to sit in the first half of that game because of this targeting call right there against Mississippi State last week. So he has to sit for the first half of his next game, which happens to be Alabama in Death Valley. Coach O wants to change this ruling, and Nacho, if you were in charge of it, how would you change it or at least tweak it a little bit here moving forward?
There has to be some sort of implications of malicious intent, and that is what truly has to dictate targeting calls. Because in football, there's incidental contact. A receiver may duck and the safety hit him in the helmet. You know, I hate to see a player get suspended for big-time moments in big-time games because of incidental contact. The refs have to find a way to judge whether there was malicious intent involved, and that should be what dictates a targeting call.
Yeah, I agree, Acho. We're talking about subjective ruling as opposed to objective. You have false starts, you have offsides. That's black and white. We know what that is. And then you have holding penalties. You have pass interference. Those are subjective to the refs. And the refs have to go and do their due diligence every offseason watching play after play after play. So I hope that the coaches get together. They show clips of 100 plays that they agree would be targeting. Show clips of 100 plays that they agree would not be targeting. Let the refs see it it so they can understand the intent, as you mentioned, of what's malicious and what's not, and what should be targeted and what shouldn't be.
All right, let's end the show on another controversial note. Hashtag TBT. Let's throw it back to Tuesday night. The Ginger Ninja and Mean Gene opening up Sunbelt action on ESPN. Evening wrestling fans, Mean Gene Cotter here. Up next, tonight's main event for the world's heavyweight title, featuring the South Alabama Slammer and Nature Boy Troy. No holds barred, a three-hole. Wait a minute, the Ginger Ninja.
Give me this. Last year, South Alabama went into Troy, and they stole this shiny, sweet, leathery bundle of joy known as the belt. But Troy wants it back. Will they get it back, or will they get crushed like you do on the bench press on a daily basis?
Cotter, that looks awesome. Why are you so small, Cotter? Why are you so small?
This is what I get for working with former NFL linebackers every day, all right? I can't help but be small. You guys are monstrous.
Cotter looked legitimately scared at some point. You look really scared for your life.
Rocky pulled it off pretty good. He was a pretty good heel in that one, I got to tell you. Got a lot of mixed reviews, though, but I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. See you guys next time around, guys.